The changing of the guard. That's what you have here is changing of the guard. First, it's Jason Kelce. Then, it's Fletcher Cox. Now, it's Brandon Graham. Not only are the Eagles making a change in their roster, but now they're going from the old to the new, and now it's kind of the passing of the torch. It's definitely what you saw today at that press conference. Big Sales here. Thank you guys again for coming aboard. Please hit the like button. Super chats go to the top. And it was quite a press conference for the retirement of Brandon Graham. Let me give you my overall sense of what he brought to the NFL and who he is as a player. You guys have more of an affection in a relationship with him because think about this. If you're 30 years old, say you're like Xander, half your life you watch Brandon Graham playing football for the Eagles. Half your life you saw that guy part of the most historic time over the last 15 years in Eagle history. So when you see a guy like that leave, it brings back memories of how you fell in love with your team. Okay? I mean, guys like that are important to franchises and cities. Personally, I thought the presser was from the heart. I say this all the time to people. Leaving pro football or leaving football in general, it's the toughest relationship to have to leave because you're forced to leave. It's your first true love. You sacrifice everything in your life, family time, personal health, to play the game. And for as long as he played, 15 years, amazing. Most guys can't play 3, me included in that. This guy played 15 years. I always have great respect for that. Massive respect because he's one of the 1%ers. That's a 1%er of those 1%ers. He loved the city and he loved playing for you. Good times and bad. 206 games played. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. 206 pro football games played is astonishing. Most in Eagle history. Think about the legendary players that have played on your team and in your franchise. Over 80 sacks if you count the postseason. 2-time Super Bowl champion. 3-time NFC champion. I believe in college at Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he was the conference co-player of the year. I think that was 09. I might be wrong on the date. But I thought he was the co-player of the year in the Big Ten. His career did not start out great. Personally, he kind of floundered around a little bit. That tends to happen when you're a rookie. What do I do? What's my next goal? Hey, I'm not getting it. You know, I'll tell you this. The support systems around him, the Trent Coles of the world and the guys that were veteran dudes that were around him clearly helped him. Because you got to pick up a routine when you're in the NFL. I mean, personally, when you look at him over the last 25 years, do you put him in this group? Do you put him in the Khalil Macks? The TJ Watts? The Cameron Jordans? DeMarcus Ware? Julius Peppers in the last 25 years is probably the best down lineman edge because of the 160 sacks. the 80 plus, the impact he had on teams. Breaking news. El Chacho Muchacho Uchea is going to be elite. Master Chief, thank you so much. Melio Acho. We'll get to that stuff later, but let's give Brandon Graham his flowers here. He's had a fabulous career. And what I loved about what I saw this year, you can make the argument, heading into the Rams game, he was playing some of your best defense of anybody on that unit. Was he playing better than Josh Sweat at the time? I think he was. When they started upping his reps, he started playing better. It was Zach Baun, him, and Jalen Carter. Those were your top three dudes. You got a 35-year-old guy playing his ass. I thought he was the player of the game in the Rams game when he ended up getting hurt. He was playing lights out. Hit the like button for me, guys. Appreciate it. I mean, I would say this to you. I wrote down my 10 favorite Philadelphia Eagles. Let me give you that. I was going to save it, but let me give you my 10 favorite Eagles. These aren't the greatest Eagles of all time. Well, they are. But my top 10 Eagles. I wrote down 10. I got Jason Kelce. Number 9, I've got Brandon Graham. Number 8, I got Shady McCoy. Number 7, I got Randall Cunningham. Number 6, I got Brian Westbrook. Number 5, I got Fletcher Cox. Number 4, I got Jerome Brown. Sorry, but, I'm a little jaded there with that one. Number 3, I got Brian Dawkins. Number 2, Chuck Badnarik. And number 1, Reggie White. Those would be my top 10 Eagles of all time. Be Reggie, Chuck Badnarik, Brian Dawkins, Jerome Brown, Fletcher Cox, Brian Westbrook, Randall Cunningham, Shady McCoy, Brandon Graham, and Jason Kelce. Be my top 10. Philadelphia Eagles of all time. Again, it's my list. I'm not a McNabb fan. You can make the argument. You could put Eric Allen probably at 10. You want to knock Jason Kelce out of there? But I think Kelce will go down as one of the greatest centers in the history of the sport. Okay? Is this based on talent? No. It's just my favorite Eagles. I was even going to maybe potentially put Seth in there. I liked the press conference. He talked from the heart. Was emotion. Hey, when you leave the game like that, he's not crying because he's going to miss the game. He's crying because he's going to miss the game and what the game brings to him. And it's not money. You don't play 15 years and you're doing it for a paycheck. You play 15 years because you have a sensational passion for playing and you love the game. Look, man, when you play football for any length of time, I played 7 years of professional football in numerous leagues. I couldn't put the game down. I traveled all over the world to play the game. It's the hardest thing to do is to walk away from that thing. Okay? It's your first true love, man. It totally is your first true love. And it's hard to divorce that. BG, a good player, not a Hall of Famer. Stop, Eagle fans. Anthony, shockingly, that's not a conversation for today. Hall of Fame, Canton. Okay. His resume is pretty impressive, though. Okay, his individual numbers are not quite there for Canton, but his impact on the franchise is enormous. It's the winning in the last 15 years, the Philadelphia Eagles have won more and been in more bigger games than any time in their illustrious history during his time. There have been some of the greatest players in the history of the sport during his 15 years. So his impact during that time, some of the most influential coaches, Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni. And guys, I'm not going to make a deal of it, but and I'm assuming he probably just omitted it by accident, but he didn't even mention in a 40-minute plus speech Nick Sirianni. Because quite frankly, I don't really think Nick Sirianni was part of the journey. I think he was part of the ending. And getting it going was the hardest part for him. And I think that's where he was talking more about his career, was the beginning and how hard it was. People were dubbing him a bust. He mentioned Andy Reid saying, "You belong here." So I don't think it was any disrespect, but at the beginning of his career was the hardest part. That was the hardest part of his career, was the beginning. And that's why I think it resonates with him more, is how hard it was to get it going and keep it going. I think Nick, again, was on the tail end of this guy's ride. No disrespect. Some coaches have more of an impact than others. Okay? I mean, I don't think Nick had an impact on Brandon Graham's career in any way, shape, or form. However, the one thing that Nick probably did in the room was help the ending of the ride for him. The tough part of his career was the beginning. Okay? It was, you could tell by the way he was talking. He wasn't sure. He said he didn't even want to go outside. Let me tell you something. When you're being called a bust, you want to hide because you're ashamed. You don't want to go anywhere. And you've got to have a great support system. What was really great about listening is that the Eagles were also a support system for him. They were there for him. You know how many organizations don't do that shit? They don't wrap their arms around a player and go, "Hey, listen, I'll tell you what. Maybe you see a little bit of that in Nolan Smith now. Didn't get out to a very good start. Organization threw their arm around him. They brought in a great coordinator. And his career's made a complete U-turn. You start to see it at a little bit of what maybe they saw when they drafted Nolan Smith, right? I'll tell you one thing the Eagles are showing you. They're showing patience. And he's the poster child for it. I thought it was really cool that they extended Lane yesterday. And then the very next day, one of the old school guys called it a career. Lane's the last of a successful past. Okay, he's the last. Everybody's pretty much new. These are the new Eagles. Lane's the last. I mean, I look at Brandon Graham's career and you just are in awe of it when you play 206 games. 206 games? Do you have any NFL men have played 200 games? Very rare. Very rare air. Most in Eagle history? Crazy. 2 Super Bowl titles. They had never won a Super Bowl in the Super Bowl era. Last championship was 60. Great. Goddard, Mulata. I'm talking more like the Lanes and the Fletchers and the Brandon Grahams. 15 years. That's right. It's a lifetime. Dude, 3 years is a long time in the NFL. It's the average a player plays in this league. 3 years. Okay? 3 years. I was lucky to be average. This guy was exceptional. This guy was 1%. Okay? I mean, getting over 10 years is incredible. Playing over 15, so rare. I think I'll always admire his BG gave 100% every time. He left it on the field. He didn't care about fame or money. He just wanted to win. I'll tell you this too, Jeff DeBone. He wanted to compete. When you're a guy like that and you play 100%, you love to compete. Competing doesn't have a price tag on it. When you compete, it's something inside you. You're banged up, you're hurt, calling you bust, and you just want to compete. Hardest thing to do is to walk away from that marriage. Ask Brady. Brady sacrificed his family to go 7-9 or 8-9, whatever it was. He's an old school player. Congratulations on a great career, and you will be an Eagle Hall of Famer. Fantastic. And Anthony, not to take your topic, Anthony brought up whether or not he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Again, you know, his career is different. He sure has a resume of success. I mean, you look at Derek Thomas. Derek Thomas is one of the greatest pass rushers in the history of the league. But you know what's not attached with him? Champion. Is he Derek Thomas? Absolutely not. Okay? Did he help an era of football be so successful? Yes. It's a complex story for him. It is the absolute rags to riches type of story. He was the 13th pick overall, I believe. And when you saw him, you never really thought he was the 13th pick in his first 5 years. He was dubbed a bust. He was dubbed a bust. And that 3 years stat's still accurate. Is that your era? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Has Philly ever had a greater captain than Brandon Graham? Yeah, Bobby Clark. Then again, he won 2 titles too. I don't know. That's a great question. That's a great question. Is he the greatest captain in Philadelphia sports history? That's a super question. Bobby Clark was a captain on those Flyer teams. Maybe. Could BG be the greatest Eagle of all time? Maybe Lane Johnson too. We know Sills don't believe kickers are real players, but Jake and Rick Lovato got 2 rings with the Birds. Great. Those guys were cabooses. BG's not the greatest Eagle of all time. That guy's Reggie White. He's the greatest football player in my lifetime with Lawrence Taylor. The 3 greatest football players I've ever seen play in my lifetime are Jerry Rice, Reggie White, and Lawrence Taylor. And you can put them in any order you want. Those are the greatest football players I've ever seen. The most impactful players, people who changed the game. So when you talk about who changed the game, Reggie changed the game. Okay? Reggie completely changed it. So, I mean, those are 3 different dudes. Jerry Rice touched the ball as an average. A times a game and score 200 yards or 200 touchdowns. Seals, what do you think of Lane's extension? I got the numbers. Added $8 million to his deal. Sure, giving Lane Johnson money, extending him out to 27. Sure. Any guy deserves it. Actually, he deserves it more than Barkley. Here's a guy that's been consistently great for a decade plus. I mean, why not? If you're going to throw money around and you're going to extend people, you should be redoing his deal every year. What you want to give money to are sure things. So it doesn't come back to bite you like a Bryce Huff. So Lane Johnson's conscious. Dude, whatever money you want to give, have at it with Lane. I have no problem with that. Guy, you want to pay him so much money in a signing bonus, and you want to lower his base down. I don't have a problem with that. This guy's earned $145 million in his career with Philadelphia. Pretty remarkable. And he is probably a second or third ballot Hall of Famer when everything is said and done. Wins another Super Bowl, could be a first ballot. Okay? Could be a first. Like the guys that are on that team that I feel comfortable giving deals to. Mulata, Landon, Lane. Shit hurts. Smith, AJ, Carter. That's probably it. Those would be guys I have no problem doing contracts with. Those guys are sure things. Brandon Graham, the last 10 years of his career was a sure thing. Okay, he was. And the Eagles rewarded him. And what you love about it, too, numerous times was nominated as the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Now you take his stuff off the field, constantly cognizant of what's going on in the community, wanting to be part of the community. God knows what he's going to do post. I think there's going to be more of a heartwarming thought maybe to go back to Detroit and go back there for a little bit and commute back and forth between Detroit and Philadelphia, two cities he admires and loves the most. Played, obviously, at Ann Arbor. I know Michigan wants him to be around the program more to help recruit the type of player they're looking to go into that place. Why not have a guy like Brandon Graham helping you recruit at Michigan? That's not a bad thing. Look at what even Bill Belichick's doing down at North Carolina. He's bringing Lawrence Taylor back to recruit for North Carolina, for God's sakes. Okay? I mean, Barkley has a ring, so great. So does Kenny Gainwell. They both have rings. Sills, would you say he's the greatest representation of Philadelphia Eagles fighting for 15 years, the highs and lows, but finding a way to be a two-time champion and patience he had to go through it all? It's a great story right there. And in my opinion, right there, that's the quintessential Philadelphian that I know. Ups and downs, hang in there, fight your ass off. And at the end of the day, it pays off. I don't know what else you can have representing a city more than that. I'm trying to think of guys, because remember something. When guys come to play in cities, they come in for 8 months and they leave. And they go back to wherever they're from. Some guys want to stay. I got to tell you something too, Samuel. I believe Brandon Graham more than Jason Kelce. I think Jason Kelce, in my opinion, I think the Hollywood lights have kind of made him forget a little bit who he is and where he was and what he did. I don't know if you guys agree with me at all, but when I listen to Brandon Graham talking, I just believed him more than Jason Kelce's retirement speech. That may be somebody that you may say that's only been here for 5 years talking, but I don't know. It just seemed to me, watching that guy talk about his ups and downs, it just seemed not scripted. I just looked not scripted. You know? I mean, Kelsey seems like a script out of Hollywood now, both of them. You know, they got a lot of things and a lot of people to answer to now. I don't really think Brandon Graham's got a lot of that. Can I even make this point about Jason Kelsey versus Brandon Graham? I don't know. I just believe Brandon Graham loved playing for you. Jason Kelsey, I did it first. But listening to him now, I don't know. I thought it was funny he wasn't there. I don't know. When I think it's a different, he's just a different dude. I think there's more, to me, it just seems more real. I don't know. Bullseye, Brandon Graham, more genuine than Kelsey. I think he meant it at first, Jason Kelsey. But I don't know. I think the new podcast, I think his new life, I think it's blinded him from where his roots are. That's the city that made him. I don't think he'll ever lose that. Will PEDs keep Lane from being a first ballot? No. I will not keep him off the list that I have. I will probably put him on the list the first year he's eligible. So, no, I think he's a great player. And by the way, Anthony, he took PED so he could continue to play. Gee, wake me up when that's wrong. That one of your stars will do whatever it takes. A lot of people don't get it. You think it's about kissing cheerleaders and cashing paychecks. Not you, Anthony. But it's about sacrificing, doing the things you have to do to play and to get your ass out there on the field. I don't hold that against him. Absolutely not. Okay? You don't win championships with fucking choir boys. You win with people who want to sacrifice things. Okay? Sills, would you ever help recruit for Miami? I do every year. I recruited Clint Hurt, Cortez Kennedy, Russell Maryland, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Kellen Winslow Jr. I recruited about 100 players for Miami. I still do it. So, yeah, I don't know. Here's Curtis. I cringed and had to stop listening to New Heights when Travis lost the Super Bowl. Jason made him listen to an entire episode about how bad Jason felt. It was pathetic. I thought it was pathetic too. I lost massive respect for him. Fuck that guy. I don't give a shit about you losing the Super Bowl. I get that's your brother. That's what it is. Okay? You know what I would have said? Why couldn't he just be honest, Jason? Hey, I'm rooting for you to have a great game. I ain't rooting for you to win. Hey, I hope you catch for 200 yards against the Eagles. I hope you break all Jerry Rice's records. But I ain't rooting for you to win. Everything I am is Philadelphia Eagles. Everything I am ain't you. I don't know. I'm a different dude, man. I don't think my love for somebody has anything to do with a football game. And if it does, it's not genuine. Kylie's the best Kelsey, and even she's getting unbearable because besides to look at, I got it. Yeah, I like her on her podcast. But again, guys, not to get off track here. When I listened to Brandon Graham today, he put Jason Kelsey to shame. I just felt that guy really was Philly. And you know why? It wasn't about the shit he said. It's about the shit he went through. This guy sucked for the first couple of years of his career. This guy stunk. And it's funny, the last year he played, this past season, he was still coming around that corner, and he was the best edge rusher they had. Their defense actually got better when he was in there. And he started playing more. I don't know. I mean, kudos. I don't spend 35 minutes on somebody. That's not who I am. I open my show for 35 minutes talking about this dude. 30 minutes. I got great respect for what he did. 15 years, 200 plus games, 2 Super Bowls. Big Ten Player of the Year. Shit, every level he succeeded at. High school, college, pro. He's revered in Ann Arbor, revered in Philly, revered in his own house. How many NFL players can say that? I'm not only revered in the home of Lincoln Financial, but I'm also revered in my own home. Not a lot of football guys can tie that together. Respect from family and respect from teammates. Those are the only people, and fans. Those are the only people that matter. You imagine this. Let me say something about you guys, the Eagle fans. I think it's so tremendous when you have a player in your city, unlike every other city. What I think is cool, when you celebrate one of these guys. I sat back and watched, and I was watching on social media, and I got to tell you, when's the last time you guys revered a Philadelphia sports athlete? You did for Kelsey. Kelsey's kind of turned his back on you a bit. You let him know it. Fletcher, you love. Lane, you revere because he's still playing. Who's the last one? Ryan Howard? Give me another guy. Chase Utley? Iverson? Probably Iverson. Right? It's great when you could see that and you watch the fans. Yeah, I thought it was cool. Especially, like I said, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Philly, Green Bay. When you watch fan bases like that celebrate someone, you should stand up and watch. Dawkins, Deshaun Jackson. Yeah, Dawkins and Deshaun Jackson, though, nothing like Brandon Graham, I think. Seals, Brandon Graham was considered an early first-round bust. Hit 13th, but he turned it around. Do you think that the Eagle organization hopes that could be the same with Jordan Davis? Yes. By the way, I'm starting to warm up to paying him $9 to $10 million. Because we're going to get into a little bit here into the topics. Okay? So again, yeah, I know. Listen, I get it. Seals used to like Kelsey until he found out the Swifties support democracy. Not an oligarch. Damn, Seals, so easy doped into hating regular folk. Hey, man, all I got to say is this. I don't know. Brandon Graham just looked like regular folks to me. Jason Kelsey looks like a Hollywood guy now. All right. Congratulations on a great career. He had an absolutely fabulous career. Okay, I mean it. How many years on 8 to 10? I don't know. 3 on his extension. Right. Hey, man. Like Brandon Graham said today, you're not going to please everybody. The only person you can please is you. That's the most important lesson you can ever learn in life when you're a football player. I'm not here to please you. I got to make sure what I do in my life and in my career is what's best for me. That's why, unfortunately, sometimes I don't give a shit what people think about me. I never really had. And you know what, Xander? I'll say it publicly. I'm probably not going to do that article. You know why? I don't have to fucking justify my life. I justify my life every day. I don't need an article to justify what I've done and what I've said and the shit I've done and the good and the bad I've done. I don't need an article. I don't need a podcast or a show to have anybody know who Dan Sileo is. I know who I am. Okay, I know what I am. I've never wished to be anyone else. BG going to Canton? Most likely not. Okay? Thought about it, but I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. You know why? So people can chirp at me? Kiss my ass. I don't need it. I don't. All right. You have a show and people know who you are. Yeah. People have always known who I am. I don't have to sit there and go on a podcast moaning and crying and bitching and like Jason Kelsey does. You win. Now the Philly fans hate me. Dude, shut up. Stand up for yourself. Holy cow, man. You act like a wimp. I met BG the night before a playoff game against the Bears a few years back. We were both with our daughters at Disney on Ice. I've actually taken my daughter to that too, man. Down to earth. Thank you, BG. Go Birds. Muggsy, thank you, dude. Muggsy's got the 4 in there. I like it. I like that. Okay. Hey, yeah. No, I don't like to do that kind of stuff and talk shit on Jason Kelsey because he was so good, man. But I don't know. Brandon Graham put him to shame today. That's one of the best retirement speeches I've heard. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, yeah, it was everything. I loved how he loved his wife. Hey, dude, let me tell you this. I've been married for a reason, also for 35, 36 years. Okay. I know some of you probably are stunned when I say that, but I've been married 35, 36 years too. My wife's my best friend. Okay. She's my best friend. The rest of it, it's all right. Okay. Her and my aunt. Hit the like button. All right. So let's get into the topics. Merrill Reese is going to join us at 3:30. He asked the very first question to Brandon Graham today at the presser, the retirement presser. So we're going to get our friend Merrill Reese. That will be at 3:30. Xander will join us at 4:30. So we'll get into the topics here. All right. So far, and yesterday, they brought in a brand new edge rusher. Aziz Al-Jalari. Sounds like a fine paisan from South Italy. How you doing? Okay? Sounds like a nice paisan. Okay, another Georgia kid. Can only be yourself, Sills, because everyone else is taken. I like that. That's great. All right? So here's your edge room. Nolan Smith, Felix Hunt, KJ Henry, Bryce Huff, Aziz Ojulero, Joshua Uchacha Acho Uche. Number 7, Ochiwana Mathis. Here is your group of edge rushers. How you feeling about it? With Emilio Ucho Acho, Azizi Ago, I'll tell you this, you definitely got the beginnings of a Jamaican 4x100 team here, man, with some of these names. Aziza, Joshua Uchi Acho, Uchanchan Uni. Holy criminy, man. I need to get a UN translator for some of these names. I mean, how do you feel about your edge room? Cool runnings. They got a bobsled team. Hey. I am. Hey, you, Emilio Uchia. All right, tell me how you feel about your edge. Give me a grade on these names. Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, KJ Henry, Bryce Huff, Aziza Ojalari Uganda, Joshua Uchacha, Uchana Mathis. A-. There you go. Still's trashing your team. I'm not trashing your team. I'm asking you, Jackson. How do you feel about your edge rushers? How do you feel about them? Coming to America Edge. Yeah. Holy cow. Zimbabwe, right? Is that what you're saying? Isn't that where he was from? Eddie Murphy? Incomplete, he says. Shit, you got 7 guys. How can it be incomplete when you got 7 guys? How can it be incomplete? I think hey, I'm going to throw some dudes out down there in the draft too. Upside? Twist says there's upsides on other teams having cut these guys and they're in their early 20s. What upside? Vic? All right. That's not awful. That's not awful. Remember something. Zach Bond was the 3rd rounder too. And New Orleans wasn't doing jack with him. That's right, man. Kyle, it's the island of misfit toys. These are all guys and all toys the other teams didn't want. Now, I'll say this to you. Could any of these players, by the way, any one of these edges, I hear Zaner talking about Nolan Smith. Funny, I heard Jeff Kerr today, and I agree with Jeff Kerr and with John McMullen. Nolan Smith hasn't shown me enough to be a guy who's going to be the leading guy where you can build an edge rushing unit around. He's not shown me that. I'll tell you why. Let's go over here to the snap counts. I wrote them down on the guys' snap counts and what they brought this past year. Nolan Smith ended up under the knife at the end of the year, correct? Well, Nolan Smith is going to have to play north of 700 snaps this coming season. Can he do it? He played north of 700 snaps this year, and it ended with him having postseason surgery. He was able to get through it. He got hurt in the Super Bowl. He's an undersized edge the same way that Vic Fangio talks about. Can he play the next 7 years as an undersized edge? And are you going to be able to build your edge unit around him? I don't think you can. Here, let's do this. Josh Sweat played 800 snaps. The year previous, 900. He had the most minus yardage in sacks. He also led your team in sacks. Vander brings up, well, he had 4 sacks in the postseason. Okay. Will he be able to do that week in and week out? I don't know. We shall find out. because they're going to line his ass up out there. JAKIB Hunt this year at 321 snaps. That's your other starting edge? Shit, dude. You got to play 800 snaps to be considered a starting edge. That guy doesn't have that in him. You know why? He's a one-dimensional player. He can't play 3 downs. He's a 2-down guy. JT, add the playoffs, bro. It's over 775 with the playoffs. 321. JAKIB Hunt, regular season, 241. You think that guy's going to play 800 snaps? We'll see. Hey, just because you increase the volume doesn't mean you will increase the production. Most of these guys get worn out. So when you say, well, these guys will step right in. Take a look at the rest of the positions. Moro Jomo played 465 snaps. Milt Williams played 629 and played in multiple positions. 7 technique, 5 technique, 3 technique. I've even seen him on the nose. You think Moro Jomo is going to improve with more reps? March 18th, I don't know that. I can't say either way. Hey, by the way, let's take a page out of Vic Fangio. If you ask the same questions that I'm asking now, Vic will answer them the same way I am. He was asked a question about Zach Bond and what he thought Bond was going to bring to the defense before the Green Bay game in Brazil. You know what he said? I don't know. Just remember that. I don't know. He didn't know what he was going to bring to the table. He had no idea. That's what you say here on the 18th. I don't know. I know Jalen. Here's the certainties on the Eagles so far. Barkley's great. Hurts competes to win. Mulata's great. Landon's great. Jurgens is really good. Lane is great. Carter is great. Bond had a great year. That's all I know. Here. How many people think that Tristan McCullum is your say? He had 255 total snaps. You're taking over for a guy who had 1,119 snaps this year in Gardner Johnson. That's your replacement? Tristan McCullum. And if you say Sidney Brown, he had 83. Tristan McCullum had 255 total snaps. Gardner Johnson, 1,119 total snaps this year, count the playoffs. I mean, okay. Brandon Graham had 311. Slay had 898 snaps. Keely Ringo had 125. That's your replacement? Shit, Isaiah Rodgers had 412. So the replacements that you have in your secondary, not just counting your edge, Keely Ringo had 125 snaps. Sidney Brown had 83. And those guys are going to take over for guys who had over 1,000 snaps and another guy who had over 898 snaps. Okay, we shall see. What makes those guys great, this guy had 1,100 snaps, and he had 6 picks and was a ball hawk for you. Slay was a lockdown corner playing 900 reps. And your top substitutes, we're big time in snap count. I mean, Jalen Hunt is expected to start right now. He's getting 300 snaps. You're taking over for a guy who had 800 snaps, 775? Really? Or you're going rookie? I'm just saying here. And what you think? Just because you increase, I heard people talking about this Ojulari kid. Now, I will go here, and I will say this. Sills, do you think this group of edge rushers that they have here, that we named, do you think these guys can benefit playing next to Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Zach Bond? And if Dean gets able to get back in there and Nakobe Dean, could they play better? Plus with Vic Fangio. Common sense would tell you yes. You play next to a great football player like I did. Okay? Does that benefit you? Absolutely. You know what the benefit is? There's no doubt that they're going to isolate on that guy. And it's up to you to make football plays and have to be a player and have to be productive. The production is going to be the interesting comment in what they end up doing. And if they can replace some of the production and quality reps. There's one thing to get quality reps, and every one of your starters last year on defense had quality reps. Everybody had a career year. Every single player. Every guy in your unit had a career year. Reed Blankenship, Gardner Johnson, both your corners, both your inside backers, every guy on the D-line. Every single player had a career year on that side of the ball. You want to hear something more significant? On the offensive side, there were guys that didn't have their career years. Hurts didn't have a career year. Your receivers didn't have a career year. Your tight end didn't have a career year. Your O-line and your running back had a career year. Your skilled guys did not have career years. That's how good you were on defense. Every single player. And by the way, the payments to these players prove it. Every one of them had career years. Every single one of them. And now, again, what you're asking is to have these new guys step in. And can this group here, what I would say with your edge guys, one guy will probably be a guy. I don't know who. What the Eagles are doing, they're just putting dudes in a barrel here and hoping one guy comes out. And they're going to draft somebody. 90% of these names will be cut. They're going to keep all these guys. They're all underachievers. Every single one of them have been underachievers. Smith has come on the last 7-8 games of the year last year and into the playoffs, which is wonderful. You should be high on that guy. Okay? You should be. Am I building my edge around him? Absolutely not. I need a prototypical edge rusher that's 6'4", 265, that's going to create, or 255, that's going to create at least a little bit of shelter and shielding for Jalen Carter. Nolan Smith is not going to take double teams and triple teams away from Jalen Carter. I'm going to put a tight end on that guy, and I'm going to run the ball right at him. I am going to wear him down like he got worn down this year. Thank God it was in the postseason, though. And thank God it was the last game of the year that he got hurt. I think, look, he's shown he can play. Build a team around or a unit around him. Absolutely not. Not yet. You know what you build a team around? People who are consistently there on Sundays for you and have done it the last 5 years, 3 years for you. You don't build your team around a – hey, dude, let me say this to you. There's no chance in hell Zach Bond is given that contract if you don't have Jalen Carter on your team. What's the point of having a linebacker making plays 5 yards down the field and you're 28th in run defense? Zach Bond should kiss Jalen Carter's ass also on that deal. You guys want to say Milton Williams and Josh Sweat should kiss his ass? There's a guy who should kiss his ass and send him flowers every week. You know what that is? That's Jalen Carter playing in front of you and keeping those old linemen off you so that you can go up and down the line of scrimmage. There's one guy that needs to kiss ass. It's Bond. You don't have two dominant players in front of you? I don't care who you are. I don't care what your linebacker credentials are. Look at Fred Warner. They blew up in the middle in San Francisco. They couldn't stop the run this year. That guy got taken to the woodshed too. All right? Get this. Sills, you doubted everyone last offseason. Last offseason, you didn't have and sign 7 edge rushers that everyone else cut. Zach Bond wasn't an edge rusher. And the one edge you did sign, he fucking stunk. What are you talking about? You make it sound like you signed edge rushers last year that were productive. Name me one. Hey, Marcus, who'd you sign last year that you signed at edge that was productive? You gave a guy $17.8 million and he stunk. The terror of the Philly media, Big Sales and Xander. Elite. Big Sales Way, how you doing? All good. Love you, man. You signed Sweat last offseason. Hey, Swansky, try listening, guy. That's why I love this game and the conversations about the game. Something surprisingly happens every year. Absolutely true. With this team, whether positive or negative. Can't wait for the outcome. Go AWOL. Hey, listen. Exactly. Vic didn't even know what he had with Bond. He said it. Dude, do I think one of these guys is going to be productive? Yeah. I don't know which one. I don't know which guy's going to fit with the coordinator, the scheme. Is Moro Jomo going to help Jalen Carter more than Milton Williams did? I don't know. I've been talking to him about him for 3 years. I like that player. I just don't think he's as versatile. But we'll see. These edge rushers, could they be better playing in a good system, in a good culture? Here's what you got different heading into this year. Your secondary's different. You lost the entire right side of your secondary. From the safety over, you've lost your secondary. And you're replacing them with lesser experienced guys. 2 of them. Your number 1 corner the last 4 years is gone. Your top safety in the last 2 or 3 years is gone. Okay? Again, March 18th, still a lot of work to do. Nobody's sky is falling shit. You got a lot of work here. And you've got a lot of question marks. That's all. Do I still see you at the pole position? Yeah. Guys, do me a favor. Please hit the like button. Let me know where we are in the likes. Yeah. Eagles secondary is going to get torched. The only way that becomes a fact is if you can't get pressure on the quarterback. If the guys you've replaced can't get pressure on the quarterback and you have to start blitzing That's a fact. If you don't, you're going to be status quo. Marcus Hayes said something yesterday. Guys, get that number up. A little low in the likes. Hit that like button, please. Marcus said something really interesting yesterday when he was on with us. Marcus Hayes from the Philadelphia Inquirer. You know, something about the Eagle players that they end up letting go. Like, they're not the top 5 players in the sport. So the replacement's not going to have to be, you're not replacing Cameron Hayward. You're not replacing Jalen Carter here. You're replacing Milton Williams. Is that more doable? Yeah. Good scouting. You can get the right guy in the building. Josh Sweat. Would you consider Josh Sweat in the last 10 years one of the top edge rushers in the NFL? No, I would not. So again, is he more of a guy that could be easily replaced in the draft? Yeah. There's a chance you can replace him too. Like, guys, then when you're talking about replacing people like Myles Garrett, that's a different animal. You're not replacing that. You're going to have a collection of guys replace that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so these Eagle guys that you're missing out on, they're replaceable. But what I look at here when you're talking on rebuilding a defense, it's a group of players. They all fit. Dallas has the absolute opposite of you. Dallas has big name corners and a big time edge rusher, and they suck. You don't have anybody big time on that defense, nor did you last year, except for Jalen Carter. Bond was having an out of his mind experience playing linebacker. Nobody would have called him the best backer in the NFL heading into that. No, you didn't have it. He ended up it. I'll tell you what, the guy in front of him helped him reach a lot of his dreams when you got a player like that playing in front of you. But you didn't have superstars. You had a superstar defense. It was a superstar defense with a lot of young upside. Like, when I see Cooper DeJean and Q, am I ready to call them exceptional players? No. They got phenomenal upside to me. You know what a phenomenal player is? God does it every year. Guy you look over there, and that guy's not going to have any peaks and valleys, and he's going to be a great ball player every year, and you can count on that, like Lane Johnson. You pay Lane Johnson, you extend Lane Johnson, because you know why? That's a sure thing. There ain't peaks and valleys in that dude's career. You don't have a year where you see Josh Sweat last year not play very well, and then this year play very well, and then 2 years ago played very well. You don't have those ups and downs like that. You play fucking just like that every year, and you're counted on to play every year just like that. It's what Mulata's starting to do. That's what you're seeing with Mulata. Mulata's starting to show you that Lane Johnson, year in and year out, best left tackle, as exceptional as he is. Like I said, Jordan Mulata's probably my favorite Eagle. Athletic, great attitude. I mean, his athleticism is off the charts. He's got a little mean streak to him. He's personable. I like him. Seals Howie's Timu signing's going to have us call this the Dollar General defense. I don't care as long as you call it a Super Bowl champion defense at the end. You can call it anything you want. Shit, you could make the argument last year. It was the no-name defense, too. You didn't know those names. Isaiah Rodgers coming off of a suspension with gambling. Q coming from Toledo. White kid playing DB? Okay. Zach Bond moved inside because Devin White stunk in camp? Okay. Sure. Could Milton, remember, hey, let's not forget this. Did we not have questions about Milton Williams heading into the 2024 season if he could play out there defensive end? Didn't we say that? Can that guy play end? Play end? He signed a contract that Tom Brady never signed. Hit the like button. Appreciate you guys. I don't know. I don't get that. I don't get that. Look, I get Penei Sewell is a great left tackle. Okay, I totally understand that. And he is. But Mulata should be in that room too. I mean, he was a great football player. I don't know why. You know, I think sometimes when you have a 7th round distinction around your name, and sometimes where you're drafted, that hangs around you for a while. And I think that's kind of like the same thing with Zach Bond. I'm shocked he made first team All-Pro. That never goes down like that. You always go with the established guys. And I think that's kind of where you are with Jordan. I think it's because Jordan's in his 20s still. Let's look at, let me say something else about Lane's extension here. So Lane Johnson gets $8 more million tapped onto his salary for the next 2 years. Lane Johnson, how old is Lane Johnson right now? Is he 35? Is Lane 35 years old, 34, 35 years old? I think he's 34, 35, right? Shit, he's in the middle of his prime. Here's what it is. Defensive tackles. 22 to 29. You know what O-linemen are, especially tackles? 30 to 37. That's your prime when you play offensive tackle. 30 to 37, that's your prime years. Because it takes so long to get the technique down. It takes so long to get the patience down. It is harder to play offensive line than defensive tackle. Okay? The athletes on the defensive line, when you start getting nicked up and banged up, you're finished. O-lineman, your prime is between 30 and 37. Look at the best Hey, do me a favor, guys. Take a look at the best offensive lineman right now in the National Football League. Penei Sewell aside. Look at the top O-linemen. They're in their 30s. Mulata's not even entering his prime yet. It's always been that way. Always been like 30 to 37. Shit, Trent Williams is still killing. Look at what they just did with Jason Peters. Jason Peters just retired at 43. And they still, I guarantee you, people will be begging Jason Peters to come out of retirement and play. Guarantee you. They'll be begging him to play. So, I mean, giving that guy that money, he can, if his legs hold up and his knees hold up and his hamstrings hold up, first thing to go in an O-lineman is his hamstrings. If that guy can hold up, he'll play near 37 years old. Maybe even past it. Impossible to replace men like that. You can replace defense. Look at this. You replace Fletcher Cox with Jalen Carter. Replacing Lane Johnson? That's going to be a tough one. But then again, you've had 30 years of left tackle. There's one place that can probably do it. It's going to be Philadelphia. Trent's 40. He's still making $28 million. Hey, RC3, look up the highest paid tackles in the league. Trent's 40. Bet you he's the highest paid guy. Name me another position in the NFL outside of quarterback where a guy's 40 years old and he's the highest paid player. You don't have a D lineman making that money. You don't have an edge rusher making that money. You don't have a linebacker or receiver making that money. You only have O-linemen making that money. Why? Because you mature later in your career. When people go, do you think it's time to get a replacement for Lane? I'm like, why? He's just in the middle of his prime right now. Guys all play. Okay? They all play into the middle of their prime when in the middle of their 30s. Okay? Hit the like button. We're going to talk to Merrill Reese. That'll be at the bottom of the hour. Okay? Bottom of the hour here. So these edge guys, just going back here, this group of edge guys you have, probably one or two will make the team. The rest of them will be cut because you're going to draft probably some kids you like. You're probably going to go into the season with 5 edge rushers. You're not going to go in with 10. So 5 of these guys will be cut. In my opinion, you're probably going to start Nolan Smith, your rookie. If you take that guy down there at 32 or you trade, your other edge rusher's not on your team right now. And it'll come down to Bryce Huff and some of these other guys as rotation pieces. Would you sign a veteran edge? I don't want to pay anything for that. I'd rather sign these underachiever guys. So, I mean, I see what they're doing. They're good. They're telling you with all of these signs, they're drafting an edge rusher. These are non-impact players. They're hoping one becomes an impact on the unit. Nobody in their right mind is expecting 10 sacks or anything. You know what they're hoping for? Guy goes in, Jalix Hunt, Bryce Huff, they win the backup roles. They're still not sold on Jalix Hunt. If you're sold on Jalix Hunt, why are you signing 10 guys at the position or Bryce Huff? You notice it's the most addressed position in offseason. What does that tell you? It's their weakest point and spot on the team right now in their eyes. Guys, when you sign 10 guys to one position group, you're not sold on the guys you have or the depth you have. You don't see a ton of O-linemen. They're pretty comfortable with who they have. If they can keep Fred, Tyler Steen, and Trevor Keegan as backups, and the guys they have, they're comfortable with that. They're not signing a ton of O-linemen. That's not what they're doing. They're signing a ton of edge guys because they really don't know what they have out there. You address an area by drafting and signing, praying you land on something. I don't think they're doing anything wrong here. I would sign 1,000. What I do like about all these guys, they were highly evaluated in other organizations. Hey, by the way, this Ojulari kid, he was a second-round pick in New York. You just let go of Barkley. Why would I think you know what you're doing up there? Why in the world would I think you know what you're doing on developing anybody in New York? Giants or Jets. Pick one. I don't trust the New York Giants. The New York Giants developing a player? When's the last great player they developed? They couldn't even develop Barkley right. Think about that. The New York Giants couldn't even develop Barkley. Barkley gets to Philly 1 year. This guy's running around like he's Emmitt Smith. Put that guy in a better organization. Now, again, I'm not saying any one of these guys are the talent of Saquon Barkley. But shit, trusting the New York Giants? How about this one here? Joshua Uche, that kid from New England, I don't know. He had 10 sacks with Belichick. They started ripping the program apart, losing all those coaches, losing Nick Caserio and those guys. I don't know. He fell off the planet. Why? Well, so have the Patriots. shitty coaching, shitty players around them. Every one of these guys that they've signed, I'm trying to give them a positive here, and I'm also looking at who they are. Every single one of these players are coming from organizations that have imploded. How do you know they're getting good coaching? The players around them aren't good enough because teams aren't good enough. Could they be better playing in a better unit with a better coordinator and a guy that knows how to utilize your strengths and weaknesses? Yeah. All of them? You're crazy to think that any of these guys, except for maybe one or two, are going to be anything. And I think that's probably where the Eagles are right now. Shit, would it shock you if they signed 2 more edge rushers? No. They need 90. And they're going to, I say they probably draft 3 edge rushers this coming year. So again, the group, it's not good enough. Bryce Huff and Nolan Smith are your starters. That's not good enough. Okay, that's just not good enough. Especially when you don't have your secondary figured out yet. The right side of your secondary is gone. You got to figure that out too. Hey, it's one thing to get pass rushers, and it's another thing not to have a corner and a playmaking safety. Well, wait, Keely Ringo and Sidney Brown and Trisha McCall. Oh, yeah, well, okay. Those guys weren't called on even last year. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to be called on to play and step in. I don't buy it. Not saying it can't be done by this coordinator. There is no doubt the winner of this past season, Vic Fangio, has a lot of say in how this team defensively is going to be restructured. Just the same as Stoutland probably looks at everyone and goes, I've had 3 different offensive right guards. We'll do it again. Is Kenyon Green the guy? I don't know. It could be somebody else. It could be totally somebody different in that position. Okay? So, again, the coaches, they've got the right coaches in the building here. Hey, at the bottom of the hour, we are going to talk to our friend Merrill Reese. Okay? You can have the best DC in history. Players still got to play and execute. Vic can't do it for them. That's right. Crowley, you remember what Dave Wannstedt said a year ago. The problem that you're going to get is not going to be Vic Fangio's scheme, because he turned out to be exactly right, and he was poetic in what he said. The players are going to have to step up and play and prove that they can play inside that system. That's exactly what Zach Bond did. Okay? I mean, and Sue, I think you're right. Having stability at the D coordinator position and keeping that same structured formula, yeah, I think that helps too. Hey, listen, will the players of a year ago, like Tristan McCullum and Sidney Brown and those guys, be better in Vic's system? Yeah. Or if they're not, they'll be fired. Same thing with Tyler Steen. Hey, Tyler Steen's in a career year. He's either going to win that job or he's fired. Now, what's cool about him is that he's a 3rd rounder, not a first pick. So you can turn him into a swing guard, and that could be your swing guard for the next couple of years. He's a 3rd round pick, still a high pick. But they need that right guard position will be figured out. I mean, you had Cam Jurgens playing right guard the year previous, and he was an alternate to the Pro Bowl. RC3. They just seen players get paid life-changing money playing for Vic Fangio. We won't miss a beat. Players are looking to get paid. Dude, RC3, you're telling me you really believe that you're not going to miss a beat with players that were other teams' trash? Okay. All these teams you think are wrong in these guys. That's what you're saying. That all of these players that they signed, I think you're giving the Eagles a little bit too much credit for winning the Super Bowl with the guys that they're signing. Okay. What they're doing, you give them complete credit for. But the players that they're signing here, I'd be careful to sit there and give everybody the benefit of the doubt here. You've had the number one defense in your organization twice in the history of your team. You've won 2 Super Bowls in the 80-plus years you've been a franchise, or I should say probably in the last Super Bowl era since 1967, you've got 2 rings. I'd be kind of looking at who they're bringing in. I think your structure is perfect. I think what you're doing as an organization is right. You're preparing for the future with the money that you've got to save. And by the way, you know why? It's not really so much saving. I'm going to use another word, allocating. The Eagles allocate money. Lane gets his. Saquon gets his. Carter's going to get his. Would you not agree these are the next 3 contracts to address? Cam Jurgens, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter. I mean, I'm not addressing the Kobe Dean's contract. That's over there. Nolan Smith's contract. We'll see what he does this year. I'll address it, and I'll reward him. I'll reward him. If I think he can take up and he plays and he picks up the reps and he picks up the production for Josh Sweat, I'll pay him. I'll pay him handsomely. You know why? How we drafted him 30th. If I'm Nolan Smith and his agent, I'm not concerned about the money. I'm concerned when you're going to address the money. Are you going to wait? Or are you going to feel comfortable paying a guy who's been injured and played half the year? Now, I was surprised by his 700 snaps. That's a lot. I thought they were around 400. Counting the postseason, he's got 700 snaps, and he got hurt in the final game. That's something that I would that favors him in me inking him down to something. The Kobe Dean, I am not on anything with when it comes to signing a contract extension for that guy. I just can't trust him. He's the Dallas Goedert of defense. He's always hurt. Depending late in the year, early in the year, every year he's been hurt as an Eagle. Every year. Can you build the middle of your defense around a guy who's always hurt? I don't believe he can. And I think that's one of the reasons that they're moving also off of Dallas Goedert is because of that. I would say the 2 areas right now that you have to be concerned about if you're Howie looking at it, your edge room, your tight end room, your corner depth. Do you believe Sidney Brown and Tristan McCullum are the guys? Okay. You might want to get a couple more safeties. I still think there's a lot more to look at here. Now, again, what's the one thing that's still intact? Is that offense. You know, last couple of days we've had some really great folks on here, Marcus Hayes and Angelo Cataldi. We were talking about the Eagles. We were talking about the culture. And I loved it today. It reminded me of what the NFL was all about. Brandon Graham, if you're 30 years old, like say Xander is, half his life he's seen Brandon Graham play football. If you're 60 years old, half your life, the next guy who's coming up here has been calling Eagle games. And you've heard his voice. And you know what I love today? The first question was from Merrill Reese asking Brandon Graham a question. And I thought that that's how that press conference should have went. And ladies and gentlemen, our good friend Merrill Reese joins us now. And I absolutely love that, Merrill. I appreciate it. Let's see if we can bring Merrill up now, Xander, and get him up here. See if we can get him up. Hey, Merrill, I love the fact that you were the first person to ask a question